Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a game with over 100 cards, and 99% of those cards are bad.
However,
these bad cards still make it into players' Edison format decks every single day. Join me as I dive deep into the abyss of bad card design and put these unloved pieces of cardboard to the ultimate test. 3 duels against random strangers on the internet. At the end of each episode, we'll reveal each card's place on the Cursed Tech tier list, ranking them from almost competitive to downright unplayable trash. Will we stumble upon a broken combo, invent a new deck, or will we just go insane trying to win a duel using Frog the Jam? You will just have to wait and find out. This is Cursed Tech. Hello and welcome to Cursed Tech. Today we're looking at probably the most unhinged OTK I have ever made, and it all stems from Luke Von Karma. I don't know, I assume everyone's watching Luke Von Karma because his videos are just the best Yu-Gi-Oh! Videos I've ever seen. Just so much fun, so handsome. And today I just want to show you a little clip, and I think it will explain this entire video pretty well. So I'll hand it over to Dan.
Battle phase. No! Cross counter! No!
That's right. Today in Cursed Tech, we are pulling off the stone statue of the Aztecs OTK. And thankfully, a lot of the cards from the OTK are available in Edison format. And not only that, there's a lot of cards that make the Edison version a lot more fun and a lot more crazy. So let's talk about it. You probably think Stone Statue of the Aztecs is the feature card of this episode. And honestly, it probably should be. But what if I told you the feature card of this episode is Exod? We are playing Exod in a Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck. The most unloved Exodia retrain, or maybe, actually there's a lot of cards contending for that spot, but the most unloved Yu-Gi-Oh! Retrain that just so happens to have 4,000 defense. And for the sake of this episode, also happens to be a rock monster. That's right, today we are playing a rock deck. You see, I think in Edison format, the best way to go about a defense position OTK is with rock monsters. But I do want to note, there is also an argument to go down the plant route, and it is possible you use cards like Black Garden, Bamboo Scrap, you use Bamboo Scrap, and all-out attacks to create tokens that attack into your monsters. And it also features a very funny infinite loop, but that version of the deck does not run Exod. So, Rock's best deck? No, they're not, but they're rocks. Behold my rock defense position OTK deck list. The first concept I need to tackle is double damage. And I don't know if you guys know that story with the grains of rice and then they double instead of getting a lot. Okay, basically, when you double something multiple times, it gets out of control very quickly. The first example of that is Canyon. The second example is Stone Statue of the Aztecs. This card is the heart and soul of the OTK. The third card is called Cross Counter. This card also doubles the damage. So basically, 1,000 damage can go to 2,000 damage, 2,000 to 4,000, 4,000 to 8,000. You understand the concept. And here's the thing. We are not done yet. There is one more way to double the battle damage, and it is by far the funniest way. You can double the battle damage if you give your opponent a second battle phase. And that's exactly what an unfortunate report does. So that is how you deal the damage for the OTK. But how do we make our opponent attack? You see, there's a few options in Edison format, the best of which I think is Battle Mania. You can activate this card, and in the standby phase, all face-up monsters are changed to attack, and they must attack this turn. Then you've got Staunch Defender, which is much worse. And lastly, there's all-out attacks, which is much better in the plant version, but still has some rogue applications against frog decks, maybe dandelion decks. And the sad thing is, both Battle Mania and All Out Attacks combo insanely with Ojama Trio, a card that is made for this deck, but unfortunately for us is limited in Edison format. If this card was at 3, this deck would be infinitely better, but instead we have to scrap together OTKs based on surprise and luck. So now we have a way to deal damage, and we have a way to make our opponent's monsters attack. But what do we do if our opponent's monster has a lot of attack? That is where the best card in this entire deck comes in, Fairy Box. And I know Fairy Box is a 50-50 gamble, but I mean, you already need to get insanely lucky to win with this deck, so why don't we just throw in a little bit more luck, and trust me, it is worth it. Fairy Box does everything this deck wants. It makes your opponent's monster's attack become 0. I mean, this card comboed with Stone Statue of the Aztecs is a 2-card 4,000 damage combo. And now, I know you guys want to talk about it, so let's talk about Exod. Exod does ruin your surprise factor, but it is incredibly powerful when it hits the field. It can't get bottomless because it has 0 attack, but this big monster's got 4,000 defense. And it's a rock monster, so if you have Canyon and, you know, Battle Mania, you could do an absurd amount of damage with it. And thankfully, it's really not that hard to summon. You see, Giant Rat is a great include anyway because it can search Stone Statue of the Aztecs out of the deck, but it can also search a Sphinx monster. And all Exod needs is to tribute a Sphinx monster to special summon itself, and yeah, I can't believe we're playing Exod, Master with the Guard. Look at this deck. This is the monstrosity I've created. I apologize to anyone I ran into on the Dueling Book ladder, and let's check out some of the carnage that ensued.
This first game we are up against heroes, and thankfully we are going first. Our opening hand looks insane. We're just going to set a bunch of cards and pass the turn and pray. My opponent is going to activate Reinforcement of the Army, search their deck for a Stratos, normal summon that Stratos, go into the battle phase, and Fairy Box? Heads? Oh, they're dead. This Stone Statue of the Aztecs has 2,000 defense. My opponent's Stratos has 0 attack. That is 4,000 damage. And this cross counter will seal the deal, 8,000 damage from attacking into a defense position monster. Alright, this next game we are up against a very cool Neos hero deck, and our hand is very good again, except this time we are going to go for the Exod. So we set a bunch of cards and pray. My opponent activates Future Fusion, revealing Absolute Zero. They send an Aqua Dolphin and a Prisma from their deck to the graveyard. They're going to normal summon a Stratos, search their deck for a Diamond Dude, go into the battle phase, and they will attack over our Giant Rat, and out comes a Sphinx monster from the deck. Although it is a level 6, it has 1,200 attack, and things are looking good because, as you can tell, Exod is in our hand. My opponent sets another back row and passes the turn, and we're just gonna summon Exod. Why the heck not? 4,000 defense. If I was my opponent, I would be very intimidated. We pass the turn, and in the standby phase, we can activate the trap card, Battle Mania. This means my opponent's Stratos has to attack my Exod. My opponent is then going to normal summon a Prisma, revealing this Neos Fusion guy, sending an Aqua Dolphin from his deck to the graveyard. Then can activate Space Gift, which is an interesting upstart goblin. But at the end of his main phase, I can activate an Unfortunate Report. This means he will have to attack my Exod twice with his Stratos. And on the declaration of the Stratos attack, I can activate Staunch Defender. This means that not only the Stratos has to attack, but the Prisma has to attack as well. So now he has to conduct his battle phase twice into a 4,000 attack monster. Both of them have to attack, and my opponent is dead. Alright, it is time for game number 2, and we have to go second this time. My opponent is going to activate 2 upstart goblins, normal summon a Prisma, reveal the same Neos guy, send an Aqua Dolphin, set a back row, and pass the turn. We draw the best card in our deck, Battle Mania. Are you kidding me? We can use Ojama Trio in the standby phase, and then turn all of them to attack and make them attack into our monster. And Alright, game number 3. It's gonna go okay. Our opening hand looks less good, but it's still not that bad. My opponent activates Convert Contact. They're then going to draw 2 new cards. They're going to activate Future Fusion, revealing Absolute Zero, sending the Aqua Dolphin and the Prisma yet again. They're then going to activate Upstart Goblin. Then they're going to normal summon a Diamond Dude. They hit an E-Call, which is not bad at all. We draw Ojama Trio, which is very good. With all-out attacks, we can combo Ojama Trio to make all the tokens attack our monsters. So we're gonna go attack with this giant rat into their monster, get out another giant rat, attack for 1400. We're then going to set all of our monsters and the back row and pass the... Next up, we have a best of 3 versus meta, and my opponent is playing Black Wings. This hand looks great. Pass the turn, and my opponent is going to normal summon a Sirocco. This is very good for us. They're then going to go into the battle phase and attack, and on the declaration of that attack, we're going to activate Shrink. And then after Shrink, we're going to activate Mirror Wall. This will make his monster 500 attack. Attacking into our 2000 defense position monster, that is 1500, and because Stone Statue of the Aztecs doubles that damage, it is 3000 damage. And then we're going to activate Cross Counter to turn that 3000 into 6,000. And thankfully, Cross Counter also destroys the monster. So now we've just done 6,000 damage, and we're in a pretty good spot. So they're going to set 3 and pass the turn to us. We draw Battle Mania, which is not bad at all. We're just going to set 2 cards and pass to our opponent. My opponent's going to normal summon a Gale, and there's nothing we can do about that. That Gale will half our Stone Statue to go down to 1000 defense, and then they pass the turn. We draw a Canyon, which is okay. We decide to not pay for the Mirror Wall, and because this Gale can just half the attack every single turn, we're not going to win with it. We've got to figure out a different way to win this game. My opponent is going to activate Gale again. This drops our guy down to 500 defense. He then goes into the battle phase and attacks over our monster. Things are not looking good. There's the fairy box we needed last turn, but oh well. My opponent is going to normal summon an Armageddon Knight. This will send a Vayu from his deck to the graveyard. He's then going to go into the battle phase, and we activate Fairy Box. We call heads, and we get tails. Okay, that's fine. We take the 14. My opponent attacks with a Gale, and we call heads again, and we get tails again. So we take all the damage, but I still believe we can win this game. My opponent is then going to Synchro Summon a Blackwing Armor Master, and then pass his turn. We draw a Starlight Road, which is not that good. We're going to set that Starlight Road and pass again. We also pay for the Fairy Box. My opponent is then going to normal summon a Blizzard. This will summon a monster from his graveyard, the Gale. He's then going to attack for 1300, and we can activate Fairy Box, and we call heads, and we get tails one more time. Okay, so 1300. Last chance, Fairy Box. You've missed every single time. Call heads. Okay, so we're in it for one more turn, but things are not looking great. We're going to pay for that Fairy Box, going down to 1000 life points, set the rat, and then pass the turn. And in the standby phase, you know we got to activate Battle Mania. This is the last turn to make anything happen, so let's see what happens. All his monsters are changed to attack position. He's then going to special summon a Bora. He's then going to synchro summon with the Gale and the Bora into a Black Rose Dragon, but thankfully we have the Starlight Road. My opponent has the Royal Oppression, but we have the Solemn Judgment. And now they have paid 800 life points, so an attack into this giant rat will be lethal. We also get to summon the Stardust Dragon, which is not too bad at all. My opponent goes into the battle phase and attacks our Stardust Dragon. We activate Fairy Box, and I call heads, and we get tails. Okay, that's fine. My opponent attacks into my giant rat with his Blizzard. We activate Fairy Box, calling heads, and we win the game with Fairy Box. That game was a nail biter. Oh my god. But now we have to play the game Game 2 after siding when we're playing the jankiest deck I've ever created. Our hand looks okay. My opponent is going to normal summon a Shura, set of aggro, and pass the turn. We set a bunch of cards, and then we just pass the turn right back. My opponent's going to go into the battle phase and attack us for 1800. We're going to activate Metal Reflex Slime. This will become a 3000 defense token. In main phase 2, my opponent is then going to set a monster and pass. We draw. We're going to set that cross counter, normal summon the giant rat, and go into the battle phase and attack into Ashura. I don't know. I figure because I have this Battle Mania and the Fairy Box, I'm in a pretty good spot to force him to get a bunch of monsters on his side of the field that are face up until he summons this Gale, and I just make a horrible misplay by not attacking over the Gale. Like, why would I not I don't know what I was thinking in this moment. So I force him to summon out a bunch of monsters. Just all around a terrible plan. I activate Battle Mania. All his monsters get switched. He's going to use Gale to half my monster. He's then going to synchro into Black Rose Dragon, and there is no coming back from that. Game number 3. Let's see what we can do, and this time we get to go first. Our opening hand, you know, we're going to set the Glad Beast to back row and pass the turn. My opponent special summons a Cyber Dragon, which would clear our stone statue, but thankfully, this Glad Beast has 2100 defense. He goes into the battle phase and takes 300 damage. He's then going to set a back row and pass the turn. We draw a Shrink, which is very good, and there's only one thing to do in this turn, and that is to summon Exhaust. We tribute summon Cryo Sphinx and special summon Exhaust from our hand, set the Shrink, and pass the turn. My opponent's going to set a back row, set a monster, pass the turn right back, and we draw a Solemn Judgment. We set the Solemn Judgment and pass the turn. They draw for turn, then pass. We draw an Unfortunate Report. We're going to set that and pass. They draw, and then they pass, and then we draw a Battle Mania. This is a very good draw. We can activate an Unfortunate Report, which says, your opponent conducts their next battle phase twice. This clears up a zone for us to set this Battle Mania, and then we can just pass the turn. In the standby phase, we can activate the Battle Mania, and now this Shura and Cyber Dragon have to attack this Exhaust. My opponent's going to normal summon a Blizzard for no effect and synchro in to a Black Rose Dragon, but thankfully for us, we have the Starlight Road, and hilariously, I don't want to give my opponent a 2500 attack monster to attack into. I don't want to summon the Stardust with the Starlight Road. He goes into the battle phase, and we will activate Shrink on his Shura. This will go down to 900 attack. 900 into the 4000 defense is 3100, which he has to do twice, which is going to be 6200. And this cross counter during the second battle phase will seal up game number 3. Granted, my opponent did draw 3 values, but oh my god, what a game.
There's a lot of problems with this deck. The biggest problem is it strives on token generation, and there's only one token card available in Edison format. Also, this deck's biggest problem is that games 2 and 3 exist. I mean, when you're playing a match of Edison format, you could possibly squeak out a lucky OTK in game number 1, but unless your opponent is DZ recently in Master Saga, your opponent's not gonna just run into your monsters without reading your cards.
No, I'm just gonna...
Huh?
What? Oh my god, what?
What? Huh?
And I think that's really why this deck was made for Master Duel. I mean, game 1s against strangers that have no idea what's coming. And believe me, if Edison format ever comes to Master Duel, this is the first deck I am building because, oh my god, it would be so much fun. And although this deck is very bad, and let me show you some of the consequences of my actions. I think I played 26 games and I won every duel I won I showed in the video, so that's some insight into this deck's power in Edison format. And although it should be an unplayable trash, look at it. It's gotta be fun and cheesy. You're playing Exhaust in a deck that elevates Exhaust to a level where he can win the game. That's fun and cheesy if I've ever seen it. Although the people I ran into probably would disagree. Thank you guys for watching, and most of all, thank you, Danny. I love watching your videos, and hopefully I can continue to steal content from you in the future.